a gender wage gap in the United States? If so, why? This is the question we will explore today. Out of this, our intention is to promote debate and insight. Therefore, we're going to explore the following: governmental agencies that promote equal pay, governmental agencies that ensure the legal right to equal pay. What is the best method to ensure equal pay? Can equal pay be either legally justified or accomplished? Lastly, we will discuss, is there a legitimate debate, regardless of the answer? The agencies of the government that ensure employees are paid fairly include: 1. Department of Labor, DOL. The DOL enforces laws such as the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, and the Davis-Bacon Act, both of which set minimum wage and overtime requirements for employees. 2. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. The EEOC enforces laws that prohibit discrimination in pay based on factors such as sex, race, and age. 3. Office of Personnel Management, OPM. The OPM sets and enforces pay regulations for federal employees. 4. National Labor Relations Board, NLRB. The NLRB enforces laws that protect employees' rights to organize and collectively bargain for better wages and working conditions. 5. Wage and Hour Division, WHD. The WHD is a part of the DOL and enforces laws related to minimum wage, overtime pay, and child labor. There are several legal options available for combating gender pay gap discrimination in the workforce. 1. File a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. The EEOC is responsible for enforcing federal laws that prohibit discrimination in the workplace based on gender. You can file a complaint with the EEOC if you believe you have been discriminated against in terms of pay. 2. File a lawsuit. If you have evidence of gender pay discrimination, you may be able to file a lawsuit against your employer. A lawsuit can be filed under federal or state laws that prohibit discrimination based on gender. 3. Negotiate with your employer. You can try to negotiate with your employer to address the gender pay gap issue. This could involve discussing your pay with your employer and highlighting any discrepancies compared to your male colleagues. 4. Join or start a collective action. You can join or start a collective action, which is a group of employees who sue their employer for discrimination. This can be an effective way to combat gender pay gap discrimination as it allows employees to pool resources and share evidence. 5. Advocate for policy change. Finally, you can advocate for policy change that addresses the gender pay gap. This could involve lobbying for new laws or regulations that require employers to provide equal pay for equal work. Next, let us look at human resources, the Society for Human Resource Management. The mission of the Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, regarding the pay gap is to promote equity and fairness in compensation practices. SHRM aims to educate and support its members in implementing non-discriminatory pay practices, conducting fair pay analyses, and advocating for pay transparency. SHRM also supports efforts to close the gender pay gap by working with employers, policymakers, and other stakeholders to address systemic barriers that contribute to pay inequities. According to the 2019 data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, approximately 70% of HR professionals were women, while 30% were men. Many human resources departments consist of females and minorities, so for example, you have a Black, lesbian, female, or a transgender working in HR, then that would satisfy much of the requirements of many organizations with regards to diversity and inclusion. As many of us know, this is the standard makeup of human resources departments within the United States. Consider the following. I asked ChatGPT some questions, and here were the answers. Does the WNBA allow men to play? No, the WNBA is a women's professional basketball league and only allows female players to compete. Does the NBA allow women to play? The NBA does not currently have any women playing in the league, but there is no rule that prohibits women from playing. However, the physical demands of the NBA and the level of competition make it extremely difficult for women to compete at the same level as men. There have been a few women who have played professionally in men's league overseas, but it is rare for women to play in the NBA. Is it illegal for the WNBA to exclude men from playing? No, it is not illegal for the WNBA to exclude men from playing. The WNBA is a private organization, and as such, they have the right to establish their own eligibility criteria for players. Additionally, the league was specifically created to provide opportunities for female basketball players, so it is reasonable for them to restrict participation to women. The same principle applies to other gender-specific sports leagues such as the NFL, NHL, and Major League Baseball. Does the NFL, NHL, and Major League Baseball discriminate against women from competing? The NFL, NHL, and Major League Baseball do not directly discriminate against women from competing, but there are currently no women playing in these leagues. The leagues have eligibility criteria that require a certain level of skill, physical ability, and experience, and women have historically been underrepresented in these areas. However, there have been women who have played in professional men's leagues in other countries, and there have been efforts to create professional women's league in these sports in the United States. The WNBA, which is currently subsidized by the NBA, is an example of a successful women's professional league, and there are also women's leagues for hockey and baseball. Can women serve in direct combat arms or frontline units in the military? Yes, women are now allowed to serve in combat arms frontline units. In 2015, the U.S. Department of Defense opened all combat roles to women, which means that women can now serve in any combat job including infantry, armor, and artillery. Women can also hold leadership positions in these units, such as platoon leaders or company commanders. However, physical demands and rigorous training requirements must be met by all soldiers, regardless of gender. Now, let's look at the basics of the gender pay gap. How does a business create a salary or a pay rate? There are certain factors or variables that must be taken into consideration. Education, experience on the job, certifications, specialized training, and on-the-job training, years of service in the organization, years of experience, job description, geographical location, such as the Northeast versus the Southeast, the Midwest versus the Southwest, Florida versus California, Maine versus Louisiana, and so on. Number of employees, laws in the state, civilian versus government, union versus non-union, short-term versus permanent job or as needed PRN, compensation package, such as salary versus stock options or ownership in the company, etc. Type of profession, trade, white collar, blue collar, science, technology, engineering, and math, entertainment, the amount of risk to life, etc. These are just a snippet of variables that go into creating a pay rate or a wage or compensation. It is as diverse as each type of job in any industry. The bottom line is you want the best person for the job. Let's talk about multiple regression analysis. Multiple regression analysis is a statistical technique used to analyze the relationship between a dependent variable and two or more independent variables. It is a way to predict or explain the behavior of the dependent variable based on the variables of the independent variables. In multiple regression analysis using dummy variables, the categorical variable is transformed into a set of binary variables, also known as dummy variables. Each dummy variable represents a different category of the categorical variable. For example, if the category variable is gender with two gender categories, male and female, then one dummy variable would be created with a variable of 1 for males and 0 for females, and another dummy variable would be created with a value of 1 for females and 0 for males. With multiple regression analysis, you can now compare apples to apples. The mathematician would be able to use all the variables as were discussed earlier. In this situation, you can use all variables necessary to explain a cause to an effect. An example of multiple regression analysis to demonstrate the variability of pay between male and female will be shown in a later presentation. Does Hollywood use multiple regression analysis? Yes, Hollywood and the film industry use multiple regression analysis to predict the box office performance of movies. The film industry is a highly competitive and risky business, and studios and production companies use various statistical models and data analysis techniques to help them make informed decisions about which movies to produce and how much to invest in them, and how much to market them. Multiple regression analysis can be used to analyze the relationship between the various factors that may affect the success of a movie, such as the genre, budget, cast, director, release date, and marketing campaign. Can multiple regression analysis be used to determine if equal pay is disputed in a court of law? Yes, multiple regression analysis can be used in a court of law to determine if there is evidence of gender discrimination in pay, even if equal pay is not a factor. Multiple regression analysis is a statistical tool that allows researchers to analyze the relationship between multiple independent variables and single dependent variables. In the case of pay discrimination, the dependent variable would be the employee salaries or wages, while the independent variables might include factors such as job title, education level, years of experience, and other relevant factors. By running a multiple regression analysis, researchers can determine if there is a significant difference in pay between male and female employees after controlling for other relevant factors. If there is evidence of a gender pay gap that cannot be explained by other factors, this may be used as evidence of discrimination in a court of law. However, it is important to note that multiple regression analysis is not a foolproof method for detecting discrimination, and there may be other factors that the analysis does not account for. My assumption is these can be intangibles, for example, giving someone less hours than someone else, which, if proven true, should be considered. Therefore, it is always important to consider multiple lines of evidence when making a determination of discrimination in a court of law. Let's take this to its logical conclusion. So, if legislators, people in the justice system, people within the HR profession, and even people within Hollywood and the media is saying there is a wage gap between the genders, then let's make sure they are talking about multiple regression analysis to solve the problem. This can be done very easily if you have the data from the organization to go against the claim of gender discrimination. Why? If this information is available to everyone who is a professional in these areas, then why do our politicians deceive us with this information? Why does the media omit this information? They have all the experts parading around on their media platforms. If you take it to its logical conclusion, you realize there is a disturbing plot or an agenda to create division. You can also state that the colleges and universities are being deceptive to young people and their institutions of higher learning. Because if they wanted them to know the truth, they would talk about this information that is readily available to anyone. Is the agenda to get us to equal pay? Let's take equal pay to its logical conclusion. This would mean that Michael Jordan would be paid the same amount of money as the 18-year-old who can't dribble but can play basketball. Any singer would make the same amount of money as Taylor Swift, although the unknown person sings in their bathroom out of tune. Any thespian would make the same amount of money requested by Tom Cruise. You cannot have two standards. Everyone must be paid equally under the law. We must be careful because there is an Equality Act that's being thrown around in Congress. Equality is basically communism because what you got, I got. So if you got a yacht, I have a yacht. We know it doesn't work that way. The elites and the puppets that they control will get the top tier stuff, and the rest of us, the 99% of us, would get the same. Equity is rationing. Therefore, equity does not create fairness. It is important to note that property is the number one foundation of our republic. Your personal property starts with yourself, so are you worth 100% of yourself, or should your abilities be shared with all 346 million plus citizens of the United States? Remember, the issue is never the issue. Let me repeat that again. The issue is never the issue. Please like, subscribe, and share this information.